I would like to call the meeting of the House Veterans Affairs and Emergency Preparedness Committee to order. Chairman Solomon has a conflict this morning, so he has asked me to fill in as chair of the Subcommittee on Security and Emergency Response Readiness. At this time, I would like to ask Representative Dan Williams to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to start off today by thanking all the members of the committee for your participation in the last couple of meetings that we have had on this topic. They have been both informative and engaging, and I really appreciate everyone's participation. We have had some great dialogue about the needs of our firefighters and EMS personnel, and we have seen the thoughtful evolution of a proposal to support those first responders, thanks to the input of the Shapiro administration, members of the General Assembly, and the fire and EMS personnel in the field, doing the work each and every day. Today, we are poised to take the next step in making an historic investment by adding $30 million more to a revamped fire company and EMS grant program. Navigating this type of expansion involves a lot of interests that can push and pull against each other, but it is important that we keep this new investment on track as we approach our state budget deadline. To that end, we will consider an imperfect but much improved proposal today that will drive further conversation about how we can provide critical help to the fire and EMS companies that protect our families and our neighborhoods. Chairman Gillen, do you have any opening remarks this morning?
I do. I want you all to know that I contributed to the program. I bought some fireworks over the weekend, and I was enormously flattered as I came to check out, and she asked me if I was over 21 years old. And so I made my 11-year-old daughter very happy, and we did it in a safe way. Thank you, Chairwoman Chairwoman O'Mara. Appreciate your leadership. This is an important grant program. By the way, the hour grows late. It's going to get done, all right? So I don't think anybody needs to have any doubt about that. What the final product looks like may be, and I suspect will be different than what we're looking at today. And so I want to encourage this process forward. And I will say it has been an inclusive process. As I look across the room, I heard your voices on numerous phone calls and conversations, and some of those extended conversations went into the weekend. And those were important discussions. So I believe we've got a product here that's moving in the right direction, somewhat unfinished. Obviously, keys are going to be the distribution formula and where that pot of money actually goes. So I would encourage all members to be absolutely candid. We've had some conversations prior to this meeting, and I think the entire committee and those that are in attendance, the stakeholders, need to know where the members are at. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Jamie, please take the roll.
Chairman Solomon, VBD. Representative Borowski. Representative Brown, VBD. Representative Genst. Representative Haddock. Representative Markozik, VBD. Representative Monroe, VBD. Representative O'Mara.
Here.
Representative Pielli. Representative Sappi, VBD. Representative Scott, VBD. Representative Takak. Representative Webster.
Here.
Representative Dan Williams. Chairman Gillen. Representative Banta. Representative Ham. Representative Krupa. Representative Mako. Representative Rigby. Representative Shalaba. Representative Stair. Representative Stender. Representative Watro. Representative Craig Williams.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, and I would like to note for the record that we have been joined by Representative Scott. At this time, I call up House Bill 2407, printers number 3294, introduced by Chairman Solomon for the committee's consideration. Will the Executive Director of the committee, Mike Hillman, briefly explain the bill?
House Bill 2407 reauthorizes and expands the Fire Company and Emergency Medical Services Grant Program, creates additional grant programs for newly eligible emergency services, and invests an additional $30 million in the grant programs.
Thank you. I am also in receipt of an amendment, A05041, being offered by Representative Scott. Representative Scott, would you please briefly explain your amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is an amendment to remove the Fire Service Modernization Grant Program, redistributing the funding to existing programs and establishing a new grant minimums and maximums.
Thank you. On the amendment, is there any discussion of the amendment? Representative Scott?
Just want to note also, thank our committee staff on both sides for working with our stakeholders to bring this, the final language to this amendment. This is not the final end of this process. This is a continuing process that will see more work even up until the floor. So just want to acknowledge that this is not a final product. This is going to get us in a better place than where we were when we first started a couple weeks ago. But thanks to the committee staff and our stakeholders for coming together on this.
Thank you, Representative Scott. Any other members wish to speak on the amendment before I recognize Chair Gillen? No? Chairman Gillen on the amendment? Oh, I'm sorry, Representative Browski.
I just want to thank the maker of the amendment, Representative Scott, for this. That was definitely a component of the original proposal that I was not very enthusiastic about. So I am very happy to see that that will be changing. And I'm also happy to hear that there's still more work to be done on this, as I do believe overall we do need to continue to have discussions about this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative. Any other members? I apologize. I don't want to miss anyone. No? All right. Chairman Gillen on the amendment?
I think we're probably going to hear this multiple times. This is a work in progress. This is progress, and we're going to continue to move this forward. So I'll be an affirmative vote. Thank you.
Thank you. With no further discussion, is there a motion to adopt Amendment A05041 offered by Representative Scott to House Bill 2407? First by Representative Takak and second by Representative Genst. There has been a motion and a second. Are there any negative votes on the amendment? Oh, there will be? All right, then let's do a roll call. Jamie, please take the roll.
Chairman Solomon,
Designation yes.
Representative Borowski, Representative Brown, designation yes. Representative Genst, Representative Haddock, yes. Representative Markozic, designation yes. Representative Monroe, designation yes. Representative O'Mara,
Yes.
Representative Pielli, yes. Representative Sappi, designation yes. Representative Scott, yes. Representative Takak, yes. Representative Webster,
Yes.
Representative Dan Williams, yes. Chairman Gillen, yes. Representative Banta, yes. Representative Ham,
Designation no.
Representative Krupa,
Designation yes.
Representative Mako,
Designation yes.
Representative Rigby, Representative Shalaba,
Designation no.
Representative Stair, Representative Stender, Representative Wattrow,
Designation yes.
Representative Craig Williams. Let's see, 23 yeas, 2 noes.
The amendment is adopted. Returning to the bill, is there any discussion of the bill as amended? Representative Takak.
Thank you very much, Chairwoman. I just wanted to reiterate again my thanks for the committee, for staff, for everyone in being so responsive, as well as those who've provided input on this process. I believe that the reauthorization and expansion of this grant program is extremely important for our first responders, especially in rural areas, including much improved support for our frontline EMS providers. As I mentioned before, this isn't just a rural issue, however. It's an issue for anyone who travels in our Commonwealth, anybody who visits our state parks, anybody who travels more than a few miles away from home is dependent on local services. And they do an outstanding job, but they need our support. And I look forward to continuing to refine this program and work with colleagues on both sides of the aisle to make sure that we are giving them the resources that they need and that they deserve, particularly in recognition of the tremendous work that they do. So thank you all very much, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Representative. Next, I have Representative Stender.
I want to thank staff for specifically the stakeholder meetings since the last time we met. I thought it was very helpful to hear from all the different parties and all the different groups, different ways we can improve this grant process, but ultimately different ways we can begin to improve fire and EMS throughout the Commonwealth. I'll echo Representative Scott's sentiment of, I'm going to be a yes today, but I don't believe this is a finished product. I think there's still some more refining to do, but I also don't think that, our volunteer fire EMS and, our career members who really depend on this program should be, should have us stand in their way of getting this important grant program. So I look forward to hearing from more of the stakeholders of different ways we can maybe keep refining this, but make sure we ultimately get this reauthorized by the end of the month. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Representative Rigby.
Thank you, Chairwoman O'Mara. The governor was in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Well, of course, Pennsylvania, in Johnstown, at the West End Ambulance Service when he made the announcement he was going to do $30 million to EMS. And in conclusion, with his statements was EMS under the Fire EMS Grant Program. And I'm concerned with where exactly the monies are going to be going. I think we're breaking it up. I think I need to know better what his intent was. Is the intent for that $30 million to go to EMS specifically, or was it just to go into the Fire and EMS Grant Program? He kind of left the door open on that when he made the statement. EMS certainly needs it, as does the fire. We know both sides need the monies, and quite honestly, we're not putting enough there. We just don't know where to get more from at this time, but I'm sure we're looking. I don't want to hold this program up. We'll keep it moving, and we'll continue to look at the numbers and make sure that we're putting the monies in their proper place. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you, Representative. Do any other members seek to be recognized before turning it over to Representative Scott?
I want to share my colleague, Representative Rigby's concern with respect to our EMS system. I feel like we all know that this is a system that is in crisis. We all have taken, or not we all, I shouldn't say that, but there are many of us have heard directly from not only the EMS providers in our own district, but from across this Commonwealth. I want to make sure that we put it on the record that we have not had any administration officials from the Bureau of EMS come to our hearings. Now, this might not be a popular thing, but we got to make sure that everybody comes to the table for these conversations, and they have yet to do that. So I'm going to ask that they please join these conversations to make this program better, or maybe a separate program. This was a program intended for the fire service, and maybe the EMS service needs their own particular program. I'm not sure exactly what the full solution is, but for this to play out in this political process the way it is, it's not fair. It's not fair to the EMS providers that are on the ground every single day. This is a very complex issue. I did not make that commitment to that service, but they are showing up. The stakeholders have showed up consistently in these conversations. It's important that the administration step up as well.
Thank you, Representative. Do any other members seek to be recognized? Would you have any comments you would like to offer, Chairman Gillen?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you, Representative Scott. Certainly a lot of experience in the field, an important voice, a man who's been certified, if I'm not mistaken, for a number of years, emergency medical technician. I'm going to share some concerns that I have, but I'm going to say at the onset, I'm a yes to move the process forward. I could echo on the EMS side, but those who've been involved in this process realize that our ambulance association and our providers on the ground are looking for parity, but not for themselves per se, but rather for the public. And I think that has to be our focus. For those of you that have had to hit 911 on occasion, I've got 5 daughters, and I'm not sure why I'm dialing 911 more than the average person, but whether it's a bicycle accident or something else going on the farm, I've had to make that call where seconds really matter. I was an emergency medical technician also for 30 years myself. We need to do more. This is a step in the right direction. And I would say to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, particularly Executive Director Mike Hillman, there was an incredible amount of work that went into getting us to this place. It was an inclusive process. Those that were on the calls, there were a number of them, you had an equal voice in the process. You were heard, your voice was respected. And this preceded this actual bill, House Bill 2410, in terms of the statute that existed in pulling resources out of the property tax relief fund. I would like to see a revenue stream distinct from that, reliable, that we don't have to keep coming back to this well every year. I realize under Act, I believe it was Act 1 of 2006, this window was opened up. Our EMS agencies, our fire agencies, our volunteers, when this bill eventually passes or it goes into a fiscal code or other product, are still going to be hurting. We're still not going to have enough money infused into the system. I think if I'm not mistaken, I heard from one of those testifiers, Gary Waters, if I'm not mistaken, said, hey, the money that we're looking at is not enough to pay 10% of one payroll. So we have an unsustainable system. And I think as much as anything else, having this conversation in this committee room and having a public discussion is essential, because the current bill, once we get it refined, once we get it purified, I think is going to help. But we're mistaken to believe that at the consummation of this bill, we're mistaken to believe that we're not still headed toward the cliff. All right? We may slow the movement toward the cliff, but the result is going to be the same at the end of the day once we go over the edge there. And several of your communities have already gone over the edge because things have been shuttered. The stakeholders are not in unanimous agreement with this product, and my voice has to reflect that. But my voice also has to reflect progress that I think we are making by having this discussion. And as a person who's in a leadership position and has a vantage point of seeing all the work that's going on behind the scenes and the realization of the necessity of all the work that lies before us, I'm encouraged that we have, yes, a system in crisis, but those of you that are seated out there, those of you that are elected officials, I think also realize where we're at and how much more needs to be done. So I leave you with a couple words and a couple thoughts. We got to make sure that the way we're distributing this pot is equitable. We got to make sure that the pot and the funding is large enough. to sustain this grant program moving forward. And I think we also have to recognize, and we've heard this word or these phrases in terms of where we're at, that we have an unfinished product. I'm not calling it defective, but we've got an unfinished product. And we have a lot more work to do. And it's hard to jam it into June of any year. And so we're in a tough spot. I'd like to see, again, I'll reiterate, then I'll close, sustaining income. That we don't have to, all right, inflation now pushes us to up the number. I think if we have a revenue stream that we rely on that has built-in inflation metrics, we'd probably be better served. And we are sitting on reserves, and I don't think they should be wasted. I don't think they should be spent unnecessarily. And I think having reserves and savings is a good thing. But I think we're also in an enviable position to make sure that we spend at a level that respects the men and women that are driving the fire trucks, that are in the back of those boxes, that respects the work that they're doing, and also honors the commitment that we have to public safety in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see Rep. Haddock, you would like to be recognized?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to clarify something that when the governor rolled this budget out, at his budget address, he did say it was for EMS and firefighting services going from $30 million to $60 million with a $30 million investment. Just to clarify. Now, one thing has come obvious to the forefront, that stakeholders, there's not enough money to go around. There's so many quality programs that our fire services and our EMS provide, and within those two higher levels, there's divisions of different operations and type of operations, and every single one of them are in need of financial help from the state of Pennsylvania. So this pot of money has been doubled, and we're still trying to work out where it can best be used for the good of all of Pennsylvania. And that's, at the end of the day, that's a good thing. But one thing that's been abundantly clear is our firefighting services, both with the EMS, are in trouble in the state of Pennsylvania. Excuse me. Volunteerism, as we know, we're struggling throughout the state, whether it's firefighters or Lion Club members. Volunteerism is going to the wayside for a lot of different reasons. And to Chair Gillum's point, I think one thing we could work on after this is a stable funding source to support both our firefighters and EMS going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Before we move to vote, I would just like to share my own perspective briefly. As you all know, I'm not chair of this committee, but when asked if I was available for this particular vote, I did feel like it was really important to say yes. Because I have served on this committee for 6 years. I've been in Harrisburg for 6 years. And I only have found really in our committee that we are willing to work together in a meaningful way to accomplish very necessary things for people in Pennsylvania. So I just want to take a second to pause. While we all can agree, and we all do agree, that this piece of legislation isn't perfect, I think we here can collectively appreciate that you have a unified group of legislators hearing you, wanting to fix it, wanting to make it better. We don't want our stakeholders fighting amongst themselves for scraps. We want to make sure that you have the resources that you need. And I feel encouraged that we're all sitting here willing to do that today. You know, there's a lot of budget weeks we arrive in Harrisburg, and there's a lot of weeks we arrive in Harrisburg that aren't budget week, but this is my 6th one, and there's a lot of things that I'm not looking forward to. But this was one of them that I felt okay as I left my daughter, who's a granddaughter of a firefighter, and knows that we are here, I am here, to make sure that we're working for our first responders. So thank you all in the room for your support and for your feedback. Thank you all up here for being willing to do the right thing and work together. Mr. Chairman, I continue to appreciate your leadership as we navigate issues in this important committee. And Sean and Mike, as always, best of the best. Jamie, can you please take the roll?
Chairman Solomon,
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I jumped the gun. I need a motion in a second. See, I'm not normally a chair. With no further discussion, is there a motion to report House Bill 2407 introduced by Chairman Solomon as amended? Moved by Representative Scott and seconded by Representative Webster. Are there any negative votes? Yeah, there will be. Okay. So Jamie, please take the roll.
Chairman Solomon, designation yes. Representative Borowski. Representative Brown, designation yes. Representative Genst. Representative Haddock. Representative Markozic, designation yes. Representative Monroe, designation yes. Representative O'Mara. Representative Pielli. Representative Sappi, designation yes. Representative Scott. Representative Takak. Representative Webster.
Yes.
Representative Dan Williams. Chairman Gillen.
Yes.
Representative Banta. Representative Ham.
Designation no.
Representative Krupa.
Designation yes.
Representative Mako.
Designation yes.
Representative Rigby. Representative Shalaba.
Designation no.
Representative Stair. Representative Stender. Representative Watro.
Designation yes.
Representative Craig Williams. 23 yeas, 2 nays.
House Bill 2407 is reported as amended from the House Veterans Affairs and Emergency Preparedness Committee. That includes our agenda for this meeting. Thank you all for participating in today's meeting. The Veterans Affairs and Emergency Preparedness Committee will meet again this week to consider timely resolutions and potentially additional legislation that will support our military, veteran, and emergency services communities. Please keep an eye on your email and other communications for announcements. Chairman Gillen, do you have any closing comments?
I do not.
All right, if there is no further business, this meeting is adjourned.